All right, we're going to get started. I want to welcome everybody to our was it September or August? It's August uh, monthly webinar for North Star MLS. I'm Mandy Bolt. I'm the Director of Engagement here, and I want to welcome all of you. This is something my colleague David normally does, so he is out and about at another event today. So you have me, but just want to welcome everybody. And the topic for today is InfoSparks with Impact, and we have with us today David Arbit, who is the Director of Research for Minnesota Realtors. And David is feeling a little under the weather today, been poisoned by his sweet children who love him very much. But I told him not to worry about it because what people are really excited about seeing is the data that he is to present. So before I throw this over to him, just to let you know, this portion is being recorded and we will take questions if you want to enter them into the question section, the Q&A. We will save those to the end, and we will address as many of those as we can at that time. And so with that, I'd like to throw it over to David. So thanks, David.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Mandy, and thanks so much for having me. And think you guys can hear I'm just getting over a cold, so thanks for bearing with me on that. I think I can make it the whole hour, but not a guarantee. So I'll try to hang in there. I want to get my screen share going so that I can start to talk about some of this stuff. Let's see. Let's get this one shared out. There we go. What is it telling me? Okay. Okay, so yeah, so welcome everybody. Thanks again for being here. What do we have? 155? Wow. I'm honored and delighted that you guys would invest a little bit of your time with us today. So thank you so much and welcome. So this is an InfoSparks kind of training, session, and we'll weave together, a training or demo as well as kind of a market update, and also some pointers on how to kind of use this with your clients. I may be muting up from time to cough, so just bear with me on that. Uh, do you see your MLS and association staff are literally risking their health for you guys? But I know it's an important time, and some things in the market and rate environment are changing, and it's really important to stay informed so you guys can be successful out there. Okay, well, enough with the platitudes and the introductions. Let's get right into it. Oh, sometimes I skip this. How do I get here? From Let me just also say, North Star is one of the top MLSs in the whole nation. I used to remember when John Mosey would walk around the conferences, he would have a line of people chasing him down, asking him, "How'd you do this? How'd you manage that? This, that, and the next thing." And so, you guys are really lucky. We're all really lucky to have such an incredible MLS. So, kudos and thanks to North Star. All right, I said I was done with the platitudes. So from the North Star kind of landing page, couple ways to kind of get into it. You'll see InfoSparks here, but you'll also see a couple other ways to kind of get at it. Oh, there's me. A couple other ways to get at it. You'll also see the link down here. Let me make that a little bit bigger. You'll see the link down here, and watch this. This is one that very few people know about, which is maybe shame on me. I'm just kidding, sort of. Let's just go to Invergrove here, and nice, looks pretty new. Price decrease, not bad. All right. And then from here, some of you will notice this little InfoSparks icon here. Now, check this out. Notice for Invergrove, when we click on it, no way. It'll actually take us to Invergrove and show the data for that community. So pretty nifty. A few different ways to sort of access it. So once you're in it, and I'll just go back to this instance of it, I'll just kind of get out, and then I'll go back to the Twin Cities region, which is, I suppose, a good point to start with. By default, we're looking at the Twin Cities region. So if I refresh this and reload, oh shoot, right. If I go from here, from the actual InfoSparks, and I refresh, you guys will see we kind of default to the Twin Cities region. Let's start high level, guys, before we really dive in. I think of this tool as having four prongs. Four prongs. One, pick your area. Well, what do you want to look at? If you know where you want to go, just start typing it. Edina, Eden, Prairie, Minna. Well, Mini gets you a Minnehaha neighborhood, Minneapolis City, um, Minnetonka somewhere, Tonka Beach down there, Minnetrista. So as you start typing the areas you're interested in, it'll sort of auto-populate and show you guys, and kind of take you right to that area. But you should also know that you can start to filter down to all these different areas, whether you want to look at county, which I don't necessarily recommend, neighborhood, community, city. How about school district? Oh, there's a big one, right? There's a big one. Can look at zip codes as well. And we'll talk a little bit about my areas later on. So I'm going to just reiterate four prongs. The first one is area. Choose your area. You can also compare areas. I want to see how the core city compares to the metro. Well, no surprise, bigger and newer homes, kind of outside the city, so higher price points. No surprise there. But you can throw in something like an Edina and see 650 very much towering over Minneapolis and the metro area as a whole. So a few notes about areas there. So don't forget about some of these options, you guys. Next of our four prongs, the second of our four prongs, metrics. So we just chose our area. Now we have to choose our metric. What do we want to look at? Well, now we're looking at price. I don't know if it'll let me make this just one click bigger. No, it will not. Okay, so we're stuck here. So choose your metric. What do you want to look at? As I take a sip of my tea and honey. So new listing activity. Okay, well, here's how it looked over the last 12 months. What about just the last month? Okay, so up 7% for July. What about pendings? Hey, up about 4.5% for July. Days on market. Be careful here. Well, gosh, we're already getting into a little bit of an advanced thing, but just know that this median of 19 days is always going to be different than the average, which is over twice as much, more like 40 days. So just know that there's a difference there, and you can toggle between them. So whatever you want to look at, you can do that. Sales price, median. I click again, I get average. Click again, back to median. You'll always notice average is higher because of luxury market activity sort of skewing everything else. So pick your metric, price per square foot, percent of original list price, right? Sellers are getting pretty much 100%. Still in a pretty decent position despite increasing inventory levels, right? Despite that. Gosh, I'm always tempted. I got to tell you guys, I'm always tempted to sort of dive in and start analyzing really quickly, but I want to keep walking us through, kind of walking us through what's going on. But, just a kind of a quick view of that inventory picture, we can see we're kind of making higher highs and higher lows over the last 3 years. No, we do not have 37,000 homes for sale. We have about 10,500, which is actually still below pre-COVID levels. So just a few notes there. Okay, so we chose our area. Now we're choosing our metric. What do we want to look at? Seller activity, buyer activity, market times, percent of original. Wow, what was happening here? It was almost like we were in a pandemic when everybody wanted to buy a home and there weren't any of them. So sellers were getting 103.5% of their list price. Okay, so we talked areas, we talked metrics. Now let's talk variables. And this is where a lot of the magic happens. You can think of variables as breakouts. So I want to break out the data, into these different submarkets or market segments, however you guys want to think about it. So, for this, well, let's just go 3 years, just kind of to demonstrate. When we're talking variables, there's two ways to approach it. One, I can filter. So let's go back to price. And you know what? I'm just going to jump into a bar chart quick. Okay. So this is the price of everything. The median price, half selling for above, half selling for below that median price right there, 395. But if I want to filter to single family, that should be what, four and a half, four and a third, right? 430. If I want to filter down to condos, always more affordable, okay, more like two and a quarter, 220 or so. All right, that's useful. And now I want to filter down to new construction. Well, we know new homes are always, almost always, more expensive than existing. So our new builds are about 525. So already I can combine some of these breakouts with these different metrics. Let's look at days on market for new construction versus existing, right? Existing homes, 18 days, new construction, 26. Well, I wonder if that has anything to do with the price point. Look at new home prices versus existing prices. I wonder as people try to get their payments under 3,000, it's no wonder they're looking at that. Not to say new construction isn't attractive for a lot of buyers. It is. Upsizers and downsizers, by the way. So, pick your area, pick your metric, and now we're looking at variables or breakouts. Price ranges. This is a really popular one. I don't think I have to explain why. And then also know that you can look at foreclosure and short sale activity. It's really not a big share of our market, so, it's maybe not popular right now, but I suppose I'll just do it. Let's leave this. I'm just going to look at lender mediated and traditional, and I know I'm moving fast here, guys. Just bear with me. Let's look at closed sales. Oops, and let's go to my rolling 12. I wonder when it was really important to look at foreclosure activity. How about when we had more lender mediated activity than traditional activity? Pretty crazy time, right? And now we just don't see that. So it's not to say it's not important, it's just such a small, segment of the market that, it's not getting much attention, and that's good. That's a good thing. Okay, so we're talking variables, different property types, different construction types, different seller types. We've even got square footage, bedroom count, and waterfront. This was an interesting one, especially, as you saw more and more buyers looking at, I don't know, areas like the Brainerd or the Lakes area, uh, when workers could work remote and they wanted to buy a cabin, or, more luxury market activity tends to be waterfront. And so for folks swimming in those ponds, pun intended, this is going to be a popular option here. Okay, so let's reiterate. Choose your area, choose your metric, pick your variables or your breakouts. How do you want to break out the numbers? And then the fourth and last prong, once you've got your areas, your variables, and your metrics all set, your last prong of the four is simply settings. So what do you want to do? We can look at a line chart. We can also switch to a bar chart. Let me go back to line. We can look at 10 years of data back to 2015, or we can look at 3 years of data. Let me take it back to the max. And I want to show some of the seasonality. So I know I move fast on that. So you can also use different time calculations or time frames. So we were bouncing between line chart and bar chart. But I also want to say you can look at the raw monthly data and look at this. Look at this seasonality. Look at the December and January months of every year when you see a slowdown. Of course, we have a seasonal market. You can also see peak activity is usually, May, May, June, May, May, June a little bit. So you can kind of see when pendings peak versus when new listings sort of peak. Sometimes all this seasonality, or maybe call it volatility in the data, sometimes it's not helpful. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. If you're finding it's not helpful, simply choose your rolling 12 month. And then you can see, when we had a lot of activity, then it came down. Then we flatlined and then COVID and kind of clawing our way back. It's a lot easier to spot those trends here than it is with all this volatility. Suppose you can kind of tell, higher here, lower here, kind of flat here, and then down. But just using this rolling 12-month time frame sort of takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. Okay, what else? Let's get back into one of our breakouts or our variables. So areas, variables or breakouts, metrics, and then settings. Oh, and you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't know that I finished on settings. Maybe that's just sick brain. So we talked time frames, we talked monthly versus rolling 12, but let me also say you can print or share. Let's click share. So one more time, I'm just going to click share. I'm going to choose live and I'll just choose social media and email. So check this out. Wow, that's me. Well, it's several years old. Hey, believe it or not, I had more hair back then. This has my contact info, my clever one-liner, and it has the data that I'm looking to share with my clients. If they want the raw data, click the Excel and they'll download the data. It's opening up on my other screen, so let me bring it over. Just downloaded the data from 8/20/2025 using rolling 12. Make this a little bigger for our Twin Cities region and going all the way back to Jan of '05, going through July, our most recent data. So that's how you share. Let's get into a few other features. I want to talk about a really popular option, and that's custom price ranges. So you'll notice that we have this pre-baked, these pre-baked ranges, and you can break them out. Gosh, guys, sick brain. Did I mention that? We were filtering down to single family and condo. We were filtering down to new construction versus previously owned. I might have forgot to mention, we can also break these out, and this is really important. Check this out. And let me go into my bar charts for this. Wow. I can see what's happening with new listings across all the various property types. And then all, just to sort of benchmark everything. It's always a good idea. Oh, by the way, we can shut it down. Turn it off if you don't like it. You can also turn it off here. Minus. Plus it back in, now it's gray. Minus it out, now it's white. Plus it back in. All right, that's the last time I'll do that. So, I wanted to mention we can filter, but we can also break out. And, the different options are there for different use cases. Depends on what you're trying to do and who you're working with. So let's get back to price ranges. We can filter or we can break out. But check this out. And this is something not everybody knows about. And the reason I know that is because I get phone calls from people saying, I want my own custom price ranges. And I say, you can have them. So let's be intentional here. One more time, guys. I'm filtering, I'm breaking out, but watch closely. I have to click on this custom text. Did you see that? I can't just click on a price range because that'll filter. I can't just click on my splitter arrow because that'll break out. I have to actually click on the word custom. Now I can clear out those price ranges and get a load of this. This is one of my favorite, easily one of my favorite parts. Let's just set up some common price ranges. And I'm not saying these are going to be the ones you'll use, for every instance, but I don't know, maybe some clean, even breaks here. Now watch carefully. Notice these price ranges over here, the old ones. I click done. Wow, these are my price ranges, our custom price ranges. I bet a lot of you are already kind of starting to think, how powerful this is and how much value you can bring to your clients just by honing in on their price point, in different areas or in different market segments, right? Within condos, oh my gosh, the 11 and Four Seasons, I mean, there's many multi-million dollar condos. There's also some $80,000 condos if you can still find one. So, even within a property type or a construction type, it's still useful to look at price ranges. All right, so check this out. Now let's break them out. Let's start with sales. I think it's easier to start with sales. Okay, interesting. I am already seeing some pretty telling information. I'm seeing that for pending sales over the last 12 months, for listings under 300,000, I'm seeing a decrease, a decline, a decrease in pendings. How about 300 to 500K right here? All right, up 3.5%. Nothing too crazy to write home about. How about half a million up to a million? Well, now we're up 9.5%. That's kind of substantial. How about million plus? I'll turn these off so we can focus in on million plus. Wow, 17.5%. That's the winner. Let me turn them all back on. That's the winner. And no surprise. Why? Who, which group of buyers is going to be the most rate sensitive? It's going to be these guys, right? Folks who, only qualify up to 3 or 400, or who really need their payments to be, to 1,800, 2,000, 2,500 a month, whatever it is. These folks in this segment are really rate sensitive. How about these folks in this luxury segment? They're just not as rate sensitive. If their payment, goes up a couple thousand a month, oftentimes they can kind of stomach that. And it's not a deal breaker or a budget buster, maybe I should say. Let's take a look at another metric like days on market. See a little bit of a Goldilocks zone in, these mid tiers. Start to see market times increase as you get up into a million plus. 36 days compared to 28 and compared to 29 for our most affordable bucket of listings. How about month supply? Oh, interesting. So most of you know that, 5 to 6 months is kind of considered a balanced market, kind of a neutral balanced market where it's not a seller's market, but it's also not a buyer's market. And so sure enough, million plus, we've got 6 months of supply. That's an adequately supplied market or segment or price point, maybe I should say. Adequately supplied, about 6 months. Everything else, pretty, pretty significantly undersupplied, right? Pretty significantly undersupplied. Oh, you know what? Let me open up chat and Q&A here. Sick brain again.
Dave,
Let's
David,
see.
we'll get those at the end. We got a bunch. I've been watching
Yeah,
them.
I'm seeing that. Holy cow. Okay. I'll keep an eye on them, and if I can kind of address a couple live, looks like I already did with the filter down to townhomes. Yes,
Yep.
you can pick a whole county. So okay, we'll keep on those.
And then if you're going to cover how to do a really specific area, I think was another question that's kind of this one.
Yep, perfect. Okay. So yeah, so just kind of getting back to some of these price ranges, you can see some really important differences in these different price brackets. Days on market tend to be higher in markets with higher month supply. And in those market segments, we also tend to see lower ratio of sold to list price, meaning the percentage that the seller is accepting of their asking price is usually a little bit lower. Let's see if we're right. Can already kind of see a Goldilocks zone here again, the sweet spot, not too hot, not too cold. But look at million plus as we're loading. We can see those sellers are getting 97 and three quarters, 98-ish percent compared to some of these other segments. And forgive me, sometimes it takes just a second to load. Let's do a quick similar exercise. Hmm, slow. Good thing by the magic of TV television. I've got another one pulled up. Okay, so month supply. Oh, really interesting. Wow. We've got 5 months of condos. That's adequately supplied. 2.5 of single family, undersupplied. About 3 months of townhomes, also undersupplied. What are these sellers getting? Well, in a sort of adequately supplied market like the condo market, those sellers are only getting about 96.5 to 97% compared to 99.3 and actually 100% for townhome and single family, respectively. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah, I am definitely noticing some changes in this condo segment. Look at market times. Look at the gains in market times. Market times have almost doubled in 2 years. They've just about doubled. Suppose they have for townhomes too, but barely up 40% for single family and barely up a day from the same time last year. Let's see if this is happy again. Oh, looks like it is. Okay. So let's look at the same, let's do a similar exercise, but let's look at month supply now for new construction. So for new builds, oh, and careful here, guys, keep your eye over here. We have 5.7 month supply of new homes, but that's over the last 12 months. What if I just want to look at July? Oh, boo. Well, I wish it were different. So usually it is, but sometimes it's the same. So let's look at that 5.5 number. Okay, 5.6 for the 12 months, but for the actual month of July, you can see it's different. New homes, the new construction segment, balanced. 5 to 6 months of supply. Existing homes, undersupplied at less than 2.5 months. Let's see. Let's go back to this version. Let's look at inventory, homes for sale. Just the monthly change. Not a big gain for single family, not even a 1% gain. Notable double-digit gains for condos and townhomes. Fairly notable anyway. And let's see if we can do this for construction type as well. And I'm going to shut off all. Oh, interesting. Okay, inventory rising for existing or previously owned homes. Actually down 9.5% for new builds, for new construction. Well, let's see if we can dive into that and peel back the layers of the onion. Let's look at new listings. Okay, so let's again turn off all. So sellers of previously owned homes actually up 8.5%. feel like a good chunk of that has to do with the move up buyers or move down downsizers who have a lot of equity built up. They're listing that. Maybe some of them are buying new construction, maybe some buying existing. But you just see more movement there. Even though, we got a ton of great builders in our area and they're doing really creative stuff to make deals happen, like buying down rates and whatnot. So that's new listings. What about pending sales? Instead of shutting it off every time, guys, I'm just going to shut it off here. So now we're just looking at the two segments. So, I understand that we're a majority existing market. In fact, about 10%. New construction, sometimes 12, sometimes 8, but about 10%. And sure enough, sales actually down 7.5% for new homes, but up 6.5%. And I think we kind of alluded to that. And if you look at the price points, so I just switched metrics from sales to prices down here. Well, now we can kind of see maybe some reasons why. For especially for a first-time buyer, they're going to struggle to make the payments at 6.5 or 7% on a 525 home compared to a 380 or a $400,000 home. So, maybe that's an obvious one, but I just want to point that out. Okay, let's see. So I think we've covered some different variables, several different metrics. Let's kind of dive back into areas a little bit. I was just up in Brainerd seeing some agents in the association up there to give a market update. And I know some of you, work up there, but I'm betting most of you are in the metros. But, let me just point this out. I'm going to switch to my line chart. I'm going to switch to my max, and I'm going to switch to rolling 12 month. Wow. Look at the Brainerd metro area in red. Prices used to be more affordable than I call the entire MLS the state as a whole. It's almost the entire state. It's about 96%. I'll say, yes, it's their decision, but unfortunately, I guess for me, it would make it easier to have all the data. Not every association yet has chosen to join InfoSparks, but the vast majority have. Sorry, God, sick brain. Join North Star, but the vast majority have. So, this is the entire MLS coverage area just in Minnesota versus the Brainerd MSA. And you can compare that to the Twin Cities region in green, which is, of course, higher than both. Let me take out Twin Cities again. So now we're basically looking at statewide activity in blue and Brainerd or Cabin Country pricing in red. Wow, look at this. Gosh, guys, remind me what was happening in 2021 and 2022? There was a buying frenzy, a bonanza. Everybody and their mother and their third grade teacher, everybody was buying homes at 2.7, 3.5% interest mortgage rates. So, that really helped Brainerd prices shoot up, and now they're actually matched up with the state as a whole, which is pretty crazy because for the longest time, obviously, maybe a brief moment here notwithstanding, the Brainerd region has been more affordable than the state as a whole. And I think we can say that's not really the case any longer. Could it change? Sure, could. But that's just one example um, of how we can have a really powerful takeaway. What else should we do? Let's do Rochester. Combined statistical area, yeah. Interesting. We don't see that same pattern in the CMAR or Southeast Minnesota region, the Rochester region there. God, I wish I could do Duluth, but you guys will see the data's a little bit wonky. I shouldn't even really look. Yeah, there's just not enough data. You can kind of see it's wonky and all over the place. So, not a good example. Oh, let's do St. Cloud. Yeah, you don't quite see this same, the word I should be using is convergence. You don't see that same convergence in price the way we did in an area like Brainerd. What else should we hop into? Alexandria? Also not the same pattern. Fergus Falls? Let's do the school district, kind of broaden it out. Yeah, also not the same pattern. How about Detroit Lakes? Yeah, kind of a more volatile area just because it doesn't have as much sales activity. But it's still interesting to see kind of how these areas compare. And if you're wondering what's happening, in the metro and how does it differ from statewide or 96% statewide, know that you can do that right here as well. It's pretty easy. Market times, 23 metro versus 25 statewide. That's been pretty much the same. I shouldn't say the same. Those trends have been in lockstep, for a long time. Absorption rates 2.7, 2.5, little bit tighter in the metro. Not much. Heck, maybe now we throw Brainerd back in. Okay, so 4.2, but there was actually a time, wow, Brainerd 1.6 months, right? When the metro had 1.2. So a little bit better now at, 2.5 and 4.25, 2.5 metro, 4.25 for Brainerd. But golly, there was a time when Brainerd had almost 20 months of supply, 19 months supply of inventory. Now, listen, the Twin Cities was also oversupplied at 7.5 months. But gosh, did that change quickly. As we blew, look at this, guys. There's where you have your roughly, 5 months, 4 to 5 months of supply. And we just blew right past it. And, getting back to what I call these pre-COVID levels, but, not back based on every metric. Okay, we're comparing a few areas. Well, excuse me. Let's do oh, here's a popular one. Let's do a Minneapolis versus St. Paul, a good old border battle. Who doesn't love a border battle? Oh, interesting. Hope I'm not saying that about all of these charts, but I think I am. 2.6 months in Minneapolis versus 2 months in St. Paul. Interesting. And it used to be just the opposite, where absorption rates were higher in St. Paul and lower in Minneapolis. That trend has shifted. I wonder if that has a little bit to do with price point. 300K in St. Paul versus 340,000 in Minneapolis. In general, more affordable markets tend to be tighter markets with lower month supply of inventory. Let's just stick on this for a little while. Again, everybody loves a border battle. It's not a battle, it's just a comparison. Interesting. Okay. Darn it, I said it again. 21 days in Minneapolis versus 19 days over in St. Paul. So, tighter month supply in St. Paul. Homes are selling quicker. I would also expect sellers to be getting or yielding a higher share of their list price. Let's see if we're right. Well, maybe we'll go monthly. Darn it. Let's go average for this because it's always, well, not always, but it's so often 100 for that median lately. So there you have it. There's Minneapolis at 99% versus St. Paul, more like 99.5. And again, you guys, look at this. Look at this trend. St. Paul's been below Minneapolis for a long time. Hmm. Looks like it's when the world changed and everything flip-flopped. Suddenly, St. Paul sellers were getting stronger offers than Minneapolis sellers. Um, this one is a little bit wonky, but I'll just say if you think there's bigger homes in one area and you want to kind of account for that, one way to do that is price per square foot, where people are spending about 205 per foot in St. Paul, but more like 239 per foot in Minneapolis. Well, just to make sure this is maybe apples to apples, maybe we have more condos in Minneapolis or more million plus activity. I know we definitely do in Minneapolis. Maybe I'll just say, single family, existing, maybe let's just use our custom and, let's say, well, here, let's say 300 to 500,000. So in that price range, okay, so now we're much less of a difference, 217 versus about 235. So you guys can kind of see how we're able to combine filters and breakouts and our different areas or area types, by the way. Let's get back to everything. Minneapolis is a wonderful, beautiful city, but it's got a lot of different submarkets. And you know what? For this one, I'm going to hop over to the SPAR Fast Stats page. I'm going to go Hennepin County. I'm going to go Minneapolis. And within Minneapolis, we've got all these wonderful communities from Northeast and near North to the high-flying Southwest community in Nokomis and Longfellow by the river. Well, I'm going to open the whole Minneapolis report, and already, really quickly, I'm going to be able to see in this high-flying Southwest community, prices are over 600,000. But in the Phillips community, sort of sandwiched between Lake Street and Franklin and Longfellow and 35W, well, there were more like 220. And in near North, we're more like 265. So those are some important differences I wouldn't want to gloss over. And some of these areas are only getting 94% of their original list price, while others, believe it or not, gosh, there's Longfellow getting 103 and a half. So let's go back here. Oops, which one was I in? Oh God, I have too many open. Okay, here we go. So let's kind of go back here, and I can say within Minneapolis, well, let's do Longfellow. And I want to make sure. So this is wonky. There's a Longfellow community, but also a Longfellow neighborhood. And if you're ever confused on that, here's the Longfellow community, but when I click into it, there's also a Longfellow neighborhood right by Seward and Cooper. And the Southwest area will be familiar, I think, to most of you guys, with Linden Hills and Kingfield and Fulton. And, some of these markets are really high-flying markets. Oh gosh, I'm bouncing around. I better close one of these. Oh gosh, so much bouncing. I'm sorry. Okay, so Minneapolis. So let's do Longfellow community. And then, I don't know, let's do the Camden community in sort of northern north side. Okay, well, I can see how these different communities sort of compare to the city as a whole. I suppose I should throw in our Linden Hills, which there's your 635, well above Longfellow. Well, now I've got a buyer, and they're not sure. They like the 50th and France community. They like that area. They're not sure if they want to do Linden Hills or Edina. Let's look. So not a huge difference in price point, 635 versus about 650. What about absorption rates? 2.5 versus 3.1 in Edina. Market times, 21 in Linden Hills, so definitely faster than the 33 in Edina. But I think most of you will know, and I think even the city logo is sort of broken up into quadrants, but I think it's just Highway 162 that are breaking, that are sort of breaking those out. So let's do an advanced use case here. Remember when we saw my areas? Let's hop in. Check this out. I can draw my own area. Oops, didn't quite finish. So that's my area. I can sort of look at the satellite view, right? So Xerxes, sort of my boundary. Actually, you know what? Let's use France. Let's use France and make sure we're going all the way down to the crosstown. And it doesn't have to be perfect just for our purposes, but watch this. Save, webinar Edina demo area. Save. Okay, what do I want to do? I want to see stats for that area, duh. Of course I do. Look at our area name, you guys. Webinar Edina demo area. Holy monkeys, over 1 million. Holy monkeys. How about single family? More like 1-1. Now, if I just compared, you know, yeah, I think we're able to see it. So that 50th in France, part of, that sort of a northeast quadrant of Edina, it's pretty different than the rest of the city. So I wouldn't want to guide my client on a buying or selling a property using even citywide data when I can hone in on their area. And that's going to be a lot more impactful and a lot more relevant. It's going to help them. It's going to help you support your pricing recommendations. It's going to help you manage their expectations. It's just going to be beneficial in every way. And I see we've got a little under 15 minutes, and I know we've got a lot of questions. So I'm going to try to wrap it up pretty soon here. But let me see. Let me just check my notes and see if I have any other big things I wanted to mention. Oh, here. In case you ever get lost or confused, and just careful, just watch the pointer here. User manual and FAQ. There's a video. There's also an FAQ section. And then your profile. By default, it'll kind of pull from your MLS profile. Oopsie. I'm going to go ahead and change this right now since I switched associations. So you guys can kind of customize this. Update.
David, did we lose your audio?
Oopsie. I coughed and didn't unmute. Thanks, Mandy. So you guys can see no surprise, right? Your private waterfront at almost 700,000 compared to river, or sometimes you'll have water or deeded access. But obviously the most common type is non-waterfront. And that's pretty close to our median because it makes up so much of our market. So a lot of different things to kind of think about. And I know I want to acknowledge sometimes this can be overwhelming, which is why the user manual and the FAQ, are going to be your friend. So with that, let's pivot to a couple questions here.
Okay, I'm going to stop recording.